What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of U4 ReZero Season 4. This is episode 11, also the finale of First Core, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Yeah. Picking up where we left off, the last time we did this, because we had to miss out on last week, uh, due to various reasons. But yeah, um, so Subaru went in to check in the same room where, uh, I guess his alternate personality ended up killing Meili. So he wanted to check up on like what happened to her, her body. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
the body goes missing, and he gets caught by Ram, pretty much accusing Subaru, this Subaru, of being some kind of imposter. And of course, Amelia gets in there, trying to get some kind of explanation from Subaru, but Ram just, you know, pretty much insists on just restraining him and taking him prisoner. Um, of course, this leads to into mass chaos soon afterwards. Um, with I think Subaru gets knocked out, and Subaru's I guess he wakes up later to find the tower pretty much it's just pretty much chaos in the tower. Reed somehow just walks out of the room he guards, and then he ends up facing Julius, who's pretty much confronted by a whole bunch of mobbies in the room, and they end up fighting one another. Which I could assume that Julius ended up dying during that fight against Reed.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they cut away. Like I was hoping that we would actually see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, not but of course not before Julius tells Subaru to look after Anastasia and the others. But
Yeah, so
unfortunately,
obviously we're to probably assume that he was going to die there anyway.
yeah. But Subaru meets up with both Beatrice and Kidna. Kidna as Anastasia, whoever it is, um, and
Hmm.
they end up getting attacked by another mob beast, and
Which is a giant scorpion.
yeah, and then
And also, I mean, I did see some spoilers regarding this, but and I don't think it's a spoiler to point this out, but if you pay attention to the color scheme of the scorpion, like it is that like yellow and black color scheme, which is the same color scheme as the the little amount of clothing that Shola wears, and also the eyes look pretty similar to her eyes in that one scene in one of the previous episodes.
yeah,
So I think it's kind of safe to assume that that scorpion is probably Shola.
yeah, they kind of gave it away in
Yeah.
the most obvious way possible. But I mean, once they escape the scorpion, like they well, so like I guess like a giant explosion happens, resulting in I guess Beatrice getting
Well,
killed, and then
yeah, because Beatrice tries to shield Subaru, and I think we don't see her actually die, but we assume that she probably got killed in the
well,
blast.
the way she died, like in the previous loops, she just like vanishes into thin air, so
Yeah,
she doesn't really die
and,
like some normal human being. So
and
I
it
guess
takes out like the lower half of Anastasia.
yeah, and it's tech. I mean, we know it's a kidnap, but she tells Subaru just
Yeah.
to I guess put her out of her misery to
Well,
uh
also like before this too, Anastasia is fairly convinced that Subaru is the killer, and like right as she's dying, because Subaru is basically like trying to argue that he doesn't remember anything. He has he's got amnesia, so there's he doesn't think well. He just doesn't know who he is, and Anastasia, like as she's dying, is fairly convinced that now that he's not the one that, or he's not the one that I guess murdered Melee and is the killer.
yeah. I mean, of course, so we also see on numerous occasions in the last couple episodes that uh, like I don't know if this is the real Melee or if it's just just some hallucination just mocking Subaru, but she just comes in
Oh well,
just
I think it was pretty obvious that that's just that's just a hallucination. Well, I'm fairly convinced it is, at least. Like I'm pretty sure it's not really her.
yeah, it just gets to the point where Subaru just basically just gives up um, and pretty much admits that his original suspicions of the others were wrong, and he just wants to just end his life right then and there. And then, of course, Satella comes in, uh, of course, repeating that she loves her over and over and over again, uh, with Subaru just basically just rejecting those advances, saying that just basically just doubting himself again, and then like just I guess not believing the fact that the stuff that he did like back when he had his memories was the same person that he is right now.
Yeah, I mean, throughout these previous episodes, we see that Subaru kind of almost has like sort of like almost like an imposter syndrome,
Yeah,
where he doesn't really know who he really is, and like all this person that they're talking about, he doesn't know, like he can't really like it's hard for him to imagine that that's actually him, considering like we have to remember that he's forgotten everything that like all the character development he's had up until like the beginning of the series, like all that's been wiped away. So he can't really like I guess square the person that they are talking about with who he is like after he right when he gets summoned to that world,
hmm
because he can't see himself as being that person. Um,
yeah. Even
yeah.
when Amelia tells him about everything that he went through,
Yeah, right. So of course, like Amelia ends up, because right when it looks like that Subaru is just going to is pretty much just going to end everything, or he's just going to give in to his despair. Like Amelia saves him, and we kind of get a scene that like kind of reminds me a lot of the scene from that one episode where it was pretty much a whole episode like in season one where Subaru is just like uh, just kind of just sort of like telling Rem how he just hates himself, and he just can't, like he's just a terrible person. It's pretty much just like uh, telling her everything. It's pretty similar to that scene in season, or that one episode in season one, but
hmm
except now it's just with Amelia, where
yeah,
like Subaru is just telling her how he doesn't he can't, like pretty much what we've been saying, like how he can't really see how he's the same Subaru that they've been talking about, and he's not sure who the real Subaru really is. Like, is it the Subaru that the way that we see now, that one with amnesia, or is it the one that they've been talking about? Like, who is the real him? He can't, he can't really see that Subaru that they're talking about being the real him.
yeah,
Um, and yeah, so and Amelia has to explain to him like some of what happened. And of course, like that kind of does. I mean, Subaru can't really, he doesn't remember, of course, any of that. So it's hard for him to really imagine any of that even happened, and he can't really see him having done any of those things.
yeah. But eventually, he does, slowly accept, her explanation about like what happened, and it eventually gets to the point where like they both fall into like the same like dark pit or miasma pit, uh, and of course they supposedly both end up dying at that moment. So
Yeah.
Subaru eventually wakes back up to the same point where he lost his memories again, and now he's determined to save everybody else this time, and that's where the
Yeah,
episode cuts off from there.
yeah, I think it's a pretty strong note to end on the first score on. I mean, especially considering the last 3 to 4 episodes have just been constant, just depressed, just very dark and depressing. Subaru just going through some of the worst things he's ever experienced. Um, Very reminiscent of I would say like the halfway point in season one with Betelgeuse and the Witch Cult. But now he's like he has this newfound determination. I am very curious to see if he is going to regain his memories. And also what who the real killer is. Like that's another huge question as to who actually is the one who's killing, who killed Melee and everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see, but unfortunately, we have to wait until like what August 12th,
Yeah,
for the next core to come back. It's gonna be a weird season because not only is like ReZero's coming back in August, but um, numerous shows are coming back at weird points. During the summer season. Normally like it would just start in like pretty much next week once the new summer season starts. But now it's like it's yeah, it's going off in a much more weirder schedule than we normally do it.
Yeah. Yeah, but I thought, yeah, the first core overall was like a really strong start to this season. I mean, it's fairly different from what we got, in season three, where it felt like, season three was more like it felt more action focused. Like it was more about like the fight against the witch cult, whereas this is more, it's much more psychological in a way, very different from what we saw in season three. It's more about, I mean, especially after Subaru having gotten amnesia, uh, he goes to some very dark places considering he just doesn't remember who he even is. And I'm very curious as to what's going on with, the tower itself, Shala, who really is behind all these murders. There's just a lot of questions, and I feel like there's more questions than answers at this point. And the only thing we get after all that is now that Subaru is at least determined to overcome this situation. Although the question remains is like, especially considering pretty much all of his character development has pretty much been wiped away because of the amnesia. Like now what is he gonna do? Who does he reach out to for help? I mean, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is he's probably gonna maybe rely more so on Emilia, considering all the support she's shown. Like, of course, he's gonna remember that from the previous loop, so he might try to like lean more on her. But we know that it's kind of like nobody can really be trusted. Like, we don't know who really is behind behind everything. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, like I said, a really good start to the season. I mean, I feel like every season has been good. Like, I don't think there's been a bad season of ReZero, but like I said, season three was pretty different. This one it feels like it's back to more so what I think people have come to expect from ReZero, as being more like psychological and just a lot more dark and psychological. Season three was as well, but it was just, like I said, it was way more like action heavy, and more about like just the fight with some of the witch cultists. But yeah, I don't have much else to say about the episode, though. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
Oh yeah, it was a pretty strong season by far. I mean, it's a lot more psychological than it was back in the third season. I think it's like more. I don't know. It's like a little bit more psychological than it was. I mean, maybe just as psychological back as season two was, because that's where I think where it's
Yeah.
going from there. As for Subaru's, I guess his determination to get his memories back. I think it has to do with something, maybe something in the tower that he can use to re-unlock his previous memories. Although, of course, that would
Yeah.
mean like how that would go about is another question. Maybe he'll have to relive everything that he literally suffered through, like pretty much relive every single death that he experienced, rather than just experiencing like pretty much all the things that he had to go through with his friends.
I think he would. I think it would completely shatter his psyche if he had to relive all those deaths.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, he's died numerous times. I mean, like,
yeah.
I would think that
I mean,
reliving every.
if you remember, like, just some, like, it doesn't really take that much to really kind of make Subaru snap. I mean, but I mean, to be fair, like, if you consider, like, most normal people wouldn't be able to take half of what Subaru's had to go through anyway. But I can't imagine, like, if he had to actually like re-experience all that. He definitely, I don't think he'd be the same after that.
No.
Um, yeah. Um, but yeah, one other thing I liked too was that, and I feel like it really shows a lot of character development from Amelia as well, just in that one particular scene. Because it is fairly obvious that Amelia does, now, like, especially I would say more so after season two, that Amelia, and Subaru have grown like pretty close. But I feel like that scene kind of cemented, like, she pretty much admits like she's in love with him. It kind of felt like similar with the Rem confession in that scene in season one too, where she confesses how much she's in love with Subaru.
Hmm.
But now it's kind of like it feels like the roles are reversed. Like now it's Amelia. Um, but it sucks because Rem has still just been MIA this whole time. So I mean, we don't really get to. I mean, I still think if she were conscious, there would be some kind of maybe some sort of a love triangle going on. But I mean, Rem's feelings are more one sided. But yeah, I mean, and who's to say like what's going to happen once she recovers her consciousness anyway? If she's even going to remember everything.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't have much else to say though. I don't know if you have anything else to say.
Yeah, it's a good. It was a good first half. I mean, it sucks that we have to wait until like the middle of August just to see the remainder of the season. I mean, just the number of episodes that they're putting out for this season is a little bit unusual than how they did it in previous seasons. So I guess it's
Hmm.
just because of the amount of material that they had to adapt with this season in comparison to all the other ones.
Yeah, well, and I also think, like I mentioned before, I think it was because originally this season 4 and season 3 were supposed to be just like one whole season,
Hmm.
um, but that didn't end up happening. So I think that's just why we have like kind of like a weird episode count.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys. So that all being said, until next time, we will see you all later.